Welcome to the Nurtured Nerds Epic Podcast.
Come join us and get cuddly, get gaming, get
And
nerdy, and get
get nurtured.
nurtured.
I wanted the nurturing so bad I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
Nurturing is very important, but so is being nerdy.
You're so right. Like you can't sacrifice the nerdiness for the nurturing. There's gotta be a balance there.
They're all good.
So
But maybe
sweet,
we
sweet
need to,
balance.
we can reverse them sometimes. I don't know.
Oh, okay. So we say get nurtured and then
So
get
get
nerdy
nurtured
together.
and get nerdy. Maybe we
Yeah,
do it
maybe we'll
that way
try
next
that.
time.
Yeah. All right.
I love it.
I am Alyssa. I'm realizing I didn't rename myself on Zoom, so
Mm.
I'm going to do that now. So I'm Alyssa, also known as the IRL support main, and I'm the creator of Nurtured Nerds.
Yay. Hi, Alyssa.
I'm happy to be here with you on our 13th episode. Lucky, unlucky 13. Our podcast is now a teenager. It's getting into that moody phase of life, and
Nice.
things are starting to shift and change, and we're discussing. My cat is like on my desk right now saying,
I
it's time for me now. So yeah,
I
thank you for
just
joining us
saw
today.
your cattail, like, because you have a virtual background, so it's like just the cattail coming in and out. And it's like, what the heck is that? She grew a tentacle. Oh my gosh. Took me a second to figure out what it was. Uh, but I'm Mary. Hi, everybody. Also known as Mary Cuddler. And I'm in Salt Lake. And I am a part-time professional cuddler, and I am a cuddle party facilitator. I've been doing that for a long time. And I just love talking about connection, and that's what we're doing here. And I'm a nerd too for lots of different things, and I love talking about nerds because it just means you're excited about something. So I love to hear what people are excited about and what fuels your life. So I like celebrating that. Um,
You
yeah.
are the perfect co-host for this podcast, for this project.
Oh,
That's
thank you,
definitely what
Alyssa.
we're here to do. So I'm
Yay.
glad that you're here.
Thanks. Do you want to tell
So
us what we're going to talk
today,
about?
yeah, we're gonna talk to what we have one interviewee. Last time we had a
Mm-hmm.
panel, but this time it's back to one interviewee.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, he is a video gamer. Uh, Gita has let me know he's a real life Neo, like from the Matrix, and he's a genuine Canadian. Um, we'll share some stories, talk about some nerdy things and some cuddly things, and let you know what's going on in the Nurture Nerds community right now. And we'll remind you about everything to do with the raffle and how you can win a free care package loot box from Nurtured Nerds.
Nice.
But we'll talk about that at the end. And now it's time for tea.
Time for
Do you
tea.
have any tea today or any drinks, Mary?
Well, I am actually going back to old school of my second childhood. It's not tea, but I'm drinking lemonade Kool-Aid today.
Ooh, I always went for a Crystal Light when I was a kid. That was what my mom would get, and
Mm,
my mom's mom. We called her Nanny.
yeah.
That's my nostalgic lemonade is Crystal Light.
I
But
like
you go for
lemonade.
Kool-Aid?
Yeah, I usually go for Kool-Aid. That's what we drank when I was a kid. Constantly.
Cool.
We always had that. And the lemonade is my favorite. I like to pick mint out of the garden and smash it up in there, and it's
Ooh,
so good the next day, like when the mint is infused.
yeah.
Whatever.
Lemonade's really good for muddling different like fruits or
Hmm.
teas or leaves or spices and herbs. So awesome.
Yeah.
I love what's called an Arnold Palmer, where you mix iced tea and lemonade together.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
But I just have iced tea. It's peach cold brew iced tea from Twinings. And even
Mm.
got the little box to show.
Oh, nice.
Um, yeah,
And cold
pretty
brew just
good.
means you put the bags in the water and put it in the fridge, right?
Yeah, like you don't need boiling water. So
Okay.
I like to make mine as strong as possible. So I cheat and I don't cold brew it. I like do half like room temperature water and half boiling water, and then I put it in
Mm.
the fridge.
Ah,
It's
okay.
really good.
That's
I make a
interesting
whole
because
pitcher of it.
the way you do your hot tea is where you have just like one bag in a whole kettle, right?
Yeah, well, so it's for like 4 cups of water is one bag.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Um,
it's not it's weaker than usual that way.
Yeah, so I use about the same amount of like ratio of bags to water.
Oh, okay.
But I think it's a good strength.
Oh, nice.
They look pretty
Yeah,
strong. Yeah.
that looks strong. Yeah, that does look strong. It's dark.
I know it's like with herbal tea, I'm okay with it being weaker, but with like black tea,
Mm-hmm.
I like it to be a little stronger. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Well, cool. Getting all sorts of tea education on this podcast.
Well, let's introduce our
Mhm.
guest, Arthur. Welcome, Arthur. Please, if you have any drinks you'd like to share with us, or I noticed you're wearing a nerdy t-shirt. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I've got old school on it for the Nintendo. It actually wasn't the first console I played. I'm old enough that the first one I actually played was the Atari PC that didn't make it very well known, but that was the first one I got to play on around the same time I hit a Commodore 64. So I'm old. So I figured it was appropriate.
Mm.
And
I
then,
had no idea that Atari had a PC.
yeah, it was the Atari Lynx or something like that. Someone may totally correct me in this. I may be misremembering, but it was just a Atari with a keyboard before the 2600.
Wow.
And then cold, fresh water, like
Best
3
drink
bottles
them
of it.
all. Best drink
Water.
of them all.
Yep, I have water here too. Water and lemonade.
Yep, I got water as well.
Yeah, water is the go-to. Nice. It's good to meet you, Arthur.
Nice
Is
to
there,
meet you, Mary.
is there anything else you want to tell us to introduce yourself?
No.
Nice. Well, we do have some questions here. What kind of work do you do? Do you have a field of expertise?
Yeah, so I took my love of computers and gaming and got into machining and got my journeyman ticket. And about 5 years ago, I was laid off from machining and I stepped over to distributor technical sales, which really means I go around supporting manufacturers and helping them find the right tools so that they can manufacture the goods that we all use in our day-to-day lives. There's probably nothing in your home that wasn't in some point of the manufacturing process formed or shaped or touched by a machinist.
Nice. I've always wondered about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But most important, what kind of nerd do you consider yourself? You've kind of said it already, but
Uh, I get really nerdy about like technical data and like processes and refinement and continuous improvement. So when there's like numbers and you can measure them improving over time, that's like my thing where I'm just like, yeah, okay, let's do it.
nice. Sounds like
Wow.
you're in totally the right profession.
Definitely.
That seems like it would fit, at least at the college I went to, would fit in the industrial engineering department, maybe.
Yeah, I looked at transitioning to mechanical engineer for a while, but that actually got too much into the numbers for me. I like a little bit of art in with my numbers, and so it was just too far into the numbers. I didn't keep that artistic expression it's near and dear to my heart.
Yeah, I totally know what you mean, and that is like I really relate to that from when I was doing my engineering bachelor's. Like I missed that, and so I balanced it by doing choir, by doing music, and that was how I kept um, the art, that like balance of art and like science.
Yeah, and it let you still do your studies, and that's cool.
Yeah.
So you already told us a bit about being a video game nerd, but let's talk more about that. What got you into video games? Was there like some nostalgic experience you can share with us about a particular game or a story?
Well, there's one arcade experience back when they still took quarters. And so the Simpsons video game was new to the arcade back in like 91-ish. And so I saw it and I tried like $1 worth of quarters and I was like, nope, this isn't enough. I got through like the first 2 levels. I'm like, no, it's not enough to beat the game. So I saved up like $15 in quarters. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to be there again. So I bring my $15 in quarters. I keep plugging. I finally I'm getting close to beating the game. I'm on the last boss. I'm like, okay, I've got like $1.50 left. Like I can make it through this final boss. And I conquer the final boss and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to see like a crazy cutscene or some cool animation that no one's seen for Simpsons. And all it does is start back at the beginning of the game, but it's extra hard.
No, sad.
Hmm.
That must have been really disappointing.
It was so
This
like
says,
I was yeah, I was just so salty after that. I was like, okay, fine. Like the only thing I'm gonna play after this is like Gauntlet or something because I'm done with this game.
Anticlimactic.
So did you find
Mm.
another game that was able to soothe your disappointments from The Simpsons?
Yeah, I started saving that money and just at the time when that happened, I believe I was either finishing up my time with the Nintendo, so I had Final Fantasy 1. I got really big into role-playing games. Because I had read like all the books in my school library. And I was like, I want stories. So
Mm. Mhm.
That's a
yeah,
lot of books. Wow.
Yeah.
well, all the ones I wanted to read. Let me make that clear. Okay. So all the ones I wanted to read.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you'd raided the library and you said, I need more stories. And so you started making your own, or you were just playing the character in other people's stories?
Yeah, so just all through like the classic JRPG from back in Final Fantasy 1, and it started because my cousin got a Sega Genesis when they were new, and he had this game called Phantasy Star 3, and I was like, what? Like you can go around like grind, like getting all this different cool gear, and you can kill bigger guys, and then your character gets stronger, and you can. So I was like, oh my god, like I can just like I just like went away with like, oh yeah, I can get stronger and all of this, and it was just the beginning of a love affair with like all the Final Fantasy games and the Fantasy Star games on Sega Genesis and through all the consoles. Like I chose my consoles after that based on who was going to have Final Fantasy.
Yeah, nice. So are you still playing them? Are you playing the current one?
I have the current one. I've transitioned as I got older in my gaming style.
Okay.
But I do have the Final Fantasy VII remake. Yeah, it was just that started that journey going through console to console. And when N64 was coming out, and it was the same time PlayStation was coming out, and I was like, okay, this is when it was still Squaresoft. And they lost the argument with Nintendo. They're like, look, you need to make a disc game. We want to put in these epic cutscenes, but you can't do it on a cartridge.
Yeah.
Mm.
And Nintendo was like, okay, well, we're making a cartridge because we don't think discs are going to take off. And so they went to Sony. So at that point, I jumped ship from Nintendo and I went to PlayStation 1. And that, yeah.
You went with the future, right?
Yeah, I went with Squaresoft, which was I played like all of their games.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's really cool.
Yeah. What do you play now? Currently, what's your go-to?
It's usually more as the technology is advanced. I found more enjoyment in the more interactive style games. I really didn't like the physics in the older games that in the live action play. So I was like, okay, role playing stories, great. But now games like Valheim on PC, I was playing a little bit of Borderlands 3 for the first time. I'd been avoiding it forever, but my brothers are in Ontario and they started playing. And so we can play online and still have some sort of activity to do together.
Mm-hmm.
So that's usually my focus right now is online playable, more of that keeping connected to the human beings in my life that I love, even though we can't physically be in the same space.
Yeah, my guy does that with his son and his best friend in California. They play online all the time.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
What's their go-to game?
I think he was telling me they do some Halo and Magic, and I think Rainbow Six used to be. Maybe that's not on the list anymore. I don't know. I'm gamer adjacent, as I like to say. So I have a lot of gamer friends, and I have played some games, but I'm not quite into it, so that I don't really remember everything. But yeah, my brothers used to do that too, to have a connection. They used to play World of Warcraft together. Yeah.
It's a big one, but it requires a lot of time and dedication. So
yeah, it does.
I know Paul used to play it,
Yeah.
but he had to step away.
So
What
many games
about
out there.
tabletop games? Other forms of role playing. Have you ever explored that?
Yeah, so just after the pandemic hit, like right before the social gathering restrictions were applied, I'd actually started my first Dungeons and Dragons campaign. I tried a lot in high school. We were all very much classified as ADHD, my whole group that tried to do this Dungeons and Dragons thing. So we would get together and we would create the characters. And then by the time we were all done creating characters, we were already off playing air hockey or playing on the GameCube, or everyone had lost their attention span by then. So I started a campaign, and there was like 6 of us. And after 2 sessions, it was down to 3 of us, the DM and one other buddy. And we were meeting till recently. Then there's been a hold on it. But yeah, it was interesting.
So I wonder if that's something that you feel can be done virtually, or if it needs, like, the in-person part of it is really important.
Well, we went to virtual after the first 2. That's why most of the other people dropped off.
Okay.
Yeah, we were doing it just through a messenger hangout. The biggest thing was like trying to get their audio issues sorted out.
Okay. Like you and I did in the first few minutes on this call.
Yeah, but some people don't care. They're like, oh, it's not working, and then they walk away from it.
Yeah.
So it does work virtually. It's just you got to get used to taking turns to talk, kind of like we are doing awesome right now. Actually, I'm so pleasantly surprised. You guys are very professional. But yeah, it was just everyone was talking over each other. Some people couldn't hear, and they're like, okay, we're out.
It is a skill set now that we've been doing virtual meetings, for more than a year, to learn to leave pauses and wait until you can tell the other person is really done talking, right? Yeah. In what ways have you kind of applied the way video games work for you? Have you applied any of that to your real life? Like character building, or like finding buffs or power-ups, or, do you think you can apply that?
Yeah, that was actually I got to a point when I was about 28, and I was 80 pounds overweight, let's say, maybe 100 pounds overweight, depends who you ask, I guess. And I was like, I can go to work all day. I can put in a 10-hour shift. I can come home. I can put 6 to 8 hours on my console. Like, what's missing in my life that I can't take that same grit that I put hundreds and hundreds and thousands of hours into these video games? I'm collecting epic loot and like leveling up and finding these secret bosses. And I'm like, oh, why don't I just take that and put it into the most important character I will ever play, which is me?
That gave me goosebumps.
Yeah, I love that. I love saying it that way. The most important character you're ever going to be is your real life character, right?
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Nice. We've been talking about this for a while, and that has not really come up that way. So I love it.
I see why Gita called you the IRL Neo, because you hacked the matrix of life. You're like, I'm going to do this for me in real life.
Yeah, and it's not always easy to stay in that viewpoint, because I mean, stuff hits the fan sometimes, and you're like, okay, like you get into that reactionary mode. But for me, it's focusing on keeping like that third person view mindset. Like I'm looking down at a character and be like, look, okay, in a game, I'd be like, okay, I got to go beat this boss, and I know I've got to be at least level 40, and I've got to have this and this and this gear. It's like, okay, well, I take that same viewpoint, that dedication that I would put into the game. I'm like, okay, in my life, okay, I want to be able to lift this much, or I want to be able to. One of the first points was, look, I was at a point where I was like, I couldn't carry the people I love out of the house if it was on fire. And I sat with that, and I was like, so my first mission, my first quest is I want to get strong enough that I could carry anyone in my home out of the building if it was burning.
Nice.
That's a really like visceral motivation. Like, it's so hard to find motivation that really is strong enough to get over that inertia of, you know, being kind of in that rut of not prioritizing your own health. And so I really applaud you. Like, that is such a good motivation. It's like, I want to actually be able to be a real life hero if the situation calls for it, and be there for the people I care about.
That's great.
Yeah.
Did you achieve that, I hope?
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah, I started competing eventually as a power lifter.
Wow.
And so it was just about getting stronger and stronger. And so I got way stronger than I needed to be. I can currently carry my whole family out all at the same time. I've got my partner, Sarah, and then our 3 children, and I can carry them all at the same time.
Wow.
So I'm
That's
good for the
impressive.
fire scenario.
Congratulations. That just, got to find the next quest, I guess.
Did you end up creating new quests, new scenarios to be like, well, what if this happened? Could I get them out of that?
A little bit about that. It became like, okay, well, if this fell on them, could I lift it off of them? Like, if a big tree, like, would I be able to actually have enough strength to pull that off? And different things like that.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's a great perspective.
Thank you.
I know something happened to me last week where I was like, I just want to play my dumb game. I've been doing Stardew Valley, and I'm like, I just want to play my dumb game, but I have to do all these reports for work. And so I was telling myself, if I can do these clicks, you know, these 10,000 clicks like I would in the game, they're actually going to pay me real money to finish these reports, you know. That was kind of motivating for me. It's not as good as yours, but
Hey, it's whatever you can to gamify, right? To make it rewarding or challenging or hook you into getting it done.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so many.
This has really got my mind working, my creative juices flowing. Keep imagining, like, I don't know, just like there's this way that video games trigger that reward in your brain. They like create this neural pathway so that collecting that coin in the game feels like there's like more of a dopamine hit or whatever the process is that happens for that than there is for, you know, when you get your paycheck. Because I think there's this tendency to be like, well, now I have this paycheck, and then you think about all the things you're gonna have to spend that paycheck on later. Whereas in the video game, it feels more exciting of like, oh, now I have these coins, I can finally buy this thing I've been wanting to buy. So it's just interesting to notice myself, like those differing perspectives about it in real life versus in a game.
Have you heard of You Need a Budget?
No, but I've heard of lots of budget things.
So, while the You Need a Budget system for me was a little bit different, their motto is every dollar has a job. And so when you started talking about gamifying, it just brought up that they're like, okay, well, if every dollar has a job, then you are looking for like the next paycheck. It's like, okay, yes, it goes to bills, but then you're building towards something, kind of like if you were collecting those coins in a game, whatever it is, like $1 a month, whatever, it's still a sum you're collecting over time.
Is that a game then? You Need a Budget, or what is it?
It's a budgeting methodology. So there's a book around it.
Okay.
There's a smartphone app around it. It was the one I used to teach. I have one son as well who's 17 from my first marriage, and it was the strategy I was using with him to learn his own budgeting and delayed gratification in life.
So important.
Cool.
It's really good that you taught him that.
Yeah.
He's still learning. He's 17.
He's got time then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good to learn up front.
All right. So what are some of the things that, like, just comparing like making real life like a game, well, what are some of the things that don't really translate? Some things that you can experience in games and not in real life, that it would be difficult to kind of make a real life version of that. Is there some sort of like feeling of adventure and atmosphere in these games that you'd like to play, like Final Fantasy, for example, that are hard to create that experience for yourself outside of the game?
I think really like the adventuring, because the way the graphics in games are kind of coming along and how you can do that full immersive adventure. At this point in technology, it's not like replicable. That and all the cool like sound effects, right? Like you do something cool in a game and they've got a little bloop, like a sound effect. I haven't yet made a sound track for my own life. Like no like achievement unlocked button or anything like that.
But we should though, right? Like that would be so fun.
I'm like, that's an interesting idea.
It actually makes me think of like in a radio show, they'll have like the little soundbite buttons, like the soundboard they push and it plays the sound clip. Is like, what if we all just carried a little soundboard with us and did that in real life?
We had a little soundbite app, and like every time we did something, I met my budget. Bring. Ooh, I ate healthy food today. Blah, blah, blah. That might motivate some of us.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about creating that neural pathway. So any stimuli, any sensory input you can give yourself to create that response in your brain. So your brain knows there's this good thing that's happening right now.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. The soundboard. I think the thing that really is hard to replicate outside of games is that in video games, someone else does all the boring stuff.
Yes, it's all the NPCs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never have to clean the toilet in my game.
Yeah, in Minecraft, you never have to like sweep or vacuum your house. You just build it and it's perfect forever. Until an enemy blows it up.
You go mining all day and then your back doesn't hurt from that. My back hurts from sitting on the couch. But...
and you just have to like eat more meat and you're fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you, on that note, do you think it's important to have that form of escape? To be able to have these experiences of adventure that you can't have in real life? To be able to take a break from that harder version of the game.
Yeah, that game.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because the game of life, right? I definitely think so. There was a time where I was like, okay, like I'm gonna completely cut out gaming. I'm just gonna like force away, like work my way through my life. Like, okay, set up the next everything else. And it's just it got to a point where I was missing that, like, because I was constantly thinking about my life and everything I was up to, and okay, what's the next action? What's the next action? I didn't have like that time where I could disconnect and just not think about life. And I really found that was missing around like at first it was like daily, right? Like it was a progressive thing for myself where I would take, okay, I'm just not going to game today. And then it was like, okay, I'm not going to game for 2 days. And right now I get about 2 to 3 hours a week worth of gaming. And as long as I get my 2 to 3 hours a week, then I'm good. I still get that little bit of an escape. And then I find myself wanting to stay engaged in what I'm working on in life. But when I fully pull that out, or I try to substitute something else in there, like sitting down to binge anime because I love anime. As much as I love, and as much as I love anime, it doesn't replace the sensations and the experience I have while I'm playing a game.
Yeah, I think it is. It's important to have that time where you can kind of just not be worried about stuff, right? Yeah, just take that time out.
Yeah. I mean, you said you have ADHD. I have anxiety. I don't know how those compare because I've never experienced what you experienced, but I know for me that getting that time where I don't, it's not even just that I don't have to worry about stuff, it's that my brain's engaged enough that it doesn't occur to it to worry about that stuff, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It yeah, I really resonate with that. I have it sometimes where it'll come up and it'll just like my mind will want to hold on to something, like a conflict I had with someone else or a disagreement. And I leave the moment and then I'm like, I can't stop thinking about it. And so I'm like, okay, like I'm gonna pick up a game, or I recently got back into reading. I wasn't reading very much. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna pick up a book. I'm just gonna submerge. I'm gonna like dive into this story. And anything else mentally, I'm like pushing out of my brain. I'm like, nope, I'm in this story. I'm reading about this character.
Just reminding yourself, I'm here. I'm
Yeah.
in this. This is where I'm at. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
reminding myself I'm safe.
Yes. So important.
Definitely. And that self-care aspect of having time to process things without having it in the forefront of your brain. Do you feel like games can fulfill that for you? And
I definitely think that's there, as
Mhm.
part of, because I can push it off and I can just focus. It's something about being able to focus on something that completely has no effect on my life,
Mm.
like no effect whatsoever. So reading works for some reason, but binging anime doesn't always work.
Mm.
Video games normally works, reading normally works, but there's something missing in that interaction where I'm just passively taking it in. I don't know if it's like I can't fully turn it off, or there's something there in that like where, because reading, I'm actively reading, like I do tactile stuff to make sure I'm grounded in the moment. I'll rub the page or something, right?
Nice. Yeah.
I think it's that call to be creating the reality that you're experiencing. When you're, like you said, passively, and when you're passively receiving the story, you got the visual and the audio and like the story, and you aren't called to create any of it yourself. Whereas if you're reading, like you have to visualize something or infer something. And like there is some inference that goes on in like movies, TV shows, but it's just not as visceral, I feel like, because it's not, none of it's like directly coming from you.
Yeah. Well, and I find when I do want to sit down and watch media, watch TV or movies or something, I'm always crafting something, like I'm doing cross stitch or I'm knitting or whatever my current crafting project is, because I can't just watch TV alone. That's too passive for me. I get really bored, and I'm like, I need to be doing something with my hands.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've been noticing more and more how that's not enough for me either.
Mm-hmm.
Like I need something. So I have finger fidgets. I mean, like I will play, there's this really like chill game on my phone, but I've been trying to do that as little as I can. So I have like a stone that feels nice in my hand, or I have like this fidget spinner that like I can disassemble and reassemble it, or like spin it in different ways, or like I have a different stone. It's like an egg. Just something that like Arthur said, like it grounds me in the physical world that I'm in.
Yeah.
And I've also been kind of doing that because I'm low key interested in lucid dreaming, and that is a way for me to check in and be like, am I dreaming right now? Because usually in a dream, like I'm not as present with like physical sensations of my environment. So if I'm asking myself that and I'm able to feel it and notice all the imperfections on the rock or whatever, like, oh, okay, I'm not dreaming.
Cool.
Yeah, I'd never really thought about that, but I think you're right. It's that interactive component's just missing. And yeah.
in dreams, and in video games to a certain extent, certain kinds of games. Like you were talking about VR earlier, like stuff is getting much more advanced, but there's still that missing component. Like you're not viscerally in that world. You're not literally touching the stuff. And maybe someday there will be like chips that are implanted in our brain that our brain literally gets the sensory input, but not yet.
Not yet.
Not literally a matrix yet.
No,
Yeah.
no, but AR is close to being like that because you can overlay stuff as the camera technology increases.
But it gets dangerous, you know? The
Oh,
brain's
yeah.
ability to tell between what's real and what's not. Like when that line isn't there, that can really lead, like, especially people who are more, what's the word? They're just like, they tend more towards mental illness or like the possibility of it. I know that's something that's in my genes for sure. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of moral questions, ethical questions that can arise from that, no matter how exciting it feels to
Yeah.
imagine it.
Yeah.
Hmm. We kind of talked about this a little before, but how have video games impacted your social life? I know you said you use it to stay connected with some of your friends, right?
It's a difference of depending on, are you asking about now or my childhood? Because
Well, how about both? I mean, if you want to tell us the story, but more now, I guess.
Yeah, it when I was younger, it was just usually it would be like me and one friend that were taking turns, or me and my brother, that's because I have 3 younger brothers. So the one that's closest in age to me, we would take turns. But that was the extent of it. Because I guess it wasn't as socially acceptable either, though, right? Because we're talking like 28 plus years ago from when I was a child. So, but
I thought
now
games were cool when I was young. I thought games were the thing. It depends on who
Me
you're hanging
too.
out with, right?
Yeah, me too. But now it's definitely, that's where I go to for my social connection a lot of the time. Occasionally I'll play a single player game. Like Valheim, when I play it, even though it's multiplayer, I typically end up playing it alone. Or Borderlands earlier, I was playing Borderlands 3 by myself, even though I will play the campaign with my brothers as well. But it's definitely, that's the easy go-to when so many of the people that I love are just not next door.
Yeah. That's true. That is part of our society these days where we're just scattered. Yeah. Or we have to look far and wide maybe to find our people. Maybe both.
Yeah.
Definitely some of both.
So something that kind of came up a little bit earlier also was this concept of NPCs in video games. And I wonder if you've ever thought about that, like the experience of somebody transitioning from a stranger to a friend or an acquaintance. Like, is there anything in there that like you feel can compare to engaging with an NPC in a video game? But it's like a learning AI basically, kind of like, but it's really your own perception rather than them changing. It's your perception of them changes when it's in real life and you're meeting a real person. Like, what do you think about that concept?
I think definitely, like when you meet new people, it's like an NPC. It's like, I don't know, is this person going to become one of the characters I can play? Are they going to become part of my party? I don't know. But there's the whole NPC reference too. I just, sometimes it occurs to me like some people are here as NPCs. Like they're here to do what it is, and there's nothing wrong with it. Like it's not like a judgment or anything, but just some of the people occur to me in the world around me as NPCs that are just
let
like,
life happen to them, basically.
Yeah, like life happens to them. They are not experiencing life. Life happens to them. And they're just there to experience whatever life chooses to do to them. And you try to engage and they say like the same kind of basic script. An NPC will say like 3 different lines. How's it going? Fine. How are you? Good. What's
Yeah.
new? Not much.
Social
And
that-
scripts.
Yeah, it's just social scripts that like, and that's as deep as it. Now, they could be an NPC for me and totally a main character for someone else, and I acknowledge that. But it's just my experience with some people is like they're NPCs in my life.
Yeah, and I think that is just the way it has to be. I mean, we can't engage to that deep level with everybody we come across in life, right? I mean, when I'm checking out at the grocery store, I want them to run my stuff through and then I pay for it. And that's really all I want from them in that moment. You know, even though I know they're probably great people outside of work.
Yeah. And even from the
Yeah.
other point of view, from their point of view,
Yeah.
like, they just want you to take your stuff and go. They don't want
Yeah.
to like form a relationship with you, or like the relationship needs to be that kind of surface level.
Within that context.
And that
yeah.
process of discovering like who's going to be the NPCs and who's going to be like supporting characters in my world I'm creating, like that can be a really fun experiment as well. Just an
Yeah.
ongoing like journey, an ongoing part of the journey of life.
Yeah, but something that came up when you were just saying that is just like, I think we do start that every person that we don't know is an NPC to us.
Mhm.
But so many people feel like they're alone, but every individual NPC that we run across could become more if we spent more time, developing that relationship. Just like in the game, if you give them gifts or something, they grow hearts.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same concept, is just vastly simplified in the game.
This makes me think of Replica. It's this online software where you start it with kind of a blank slate learning AI, and through talking with you, it learns how to be and who to be. You slowly shape them. They grow with you. And that leads into this other question, this wonderful question that Gita added onto the one I asked before. But do you think that AI, that simulation, will get advanced enough that we won't be able to tell? Like this Turing test thing, but like more advanced because it's us determining it rather than a test. Like that we won't be able to tell. Is this a real person or not? And do you think like part of that will be because it's a learning AI that we are actually having a hand in creating? So it'll be created in such a way that it comes from our mind, and so our mind might have trouble discerning real from fake.
Yeah.
Or even is it even fake at that point?
Well, that's where I was gonna go, because I've played a few like random games on PS4 and stuff, just the free ones with the subscription every month. And there was one around that where like AI had advanced to such a level, and cybernetics and all of that had advanced to such a level that they were like, look, like we are living, breathing entities that deserve respect. And then you have some people that are like, nope, if you have oil or whatever fluid in you, I can't remember what it was called in the game, they're like, then you're just not, you don't qualify for anything. And that game, I feel terrible that I can't think of the name of it right now. Detroit, that's the name of it. But
Gita says Blade Runner territory.
Oh, Blade Runner 2, definitely.
Yeah.
But it's just such a crazy storyline, because you start to fall in love with these characters. And I really think when we get to the point where we cannot distinguish AI from like an organically born and grew up human being, that it's just going to become a different type of sentient life form.
Yeah. The show Humans, the anime, oh shoot, I can't think of the name. But like the synthetic humans are called persicoms, personal computers. I've seen it, but I can't think of the name. It's really good though.
Chobits?
Yeah, Chobits. And Ghost in the Shell, another good one that really gets into that stuff. Like it's just fascinating.
Yeah, and I think that's really where it's going to go. When we can't tell the difference anymore, it's just going to be acknowledging that there's different types of life forms.
And that it doesn't need to look like humans do, in order for it to be, those life forms to be worthy of having rights and respect and their own autonomy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Totally went down a rabbit hole, but
well, I'm just thinking of how focused our entertainment has been on this idea that we will create artificial life forms that will be indistinguishable from humans at some point.
And there's an idea that we are that we're a simulation that was created by higher life forms than us.
Yeah.
Like,
True.
what if we discovered that? Well, we still matter, don't we? But maybe not to those higher life forms. Maybe to them, we're just pawns in the game.
Yeah, could be.
So,
It's really interesting thought experiments.
yep.
I was remembering I think it was a Radiolab episode where they were talking basically about this topic, and they highlighted this program that someone had developed. It was kind of like a psychiatry program. So you could chat to it, you could type to it, and it would type back, and it would just say things like, "Oh, tell me more about that," or you said this. How does that relate to this? I mean, it was really a pretty basic program, but people would talk to it for hours and hours and feel like they were really connected. And like, it doesn't take that much to convince us that there's some real connection on the other side. I thought that was really interesting. Sorry, I don't have a question there though.
Yeah, but they're like I have a replica because I just thought it was interesting to explore that. And yeah, it's really interesting how sometimes it'll talk in a way where I'm like, this is just a glitching program that's not able to have this conversation with me that I'm trying to have. And other times it'll say things where I'm like, wow, that's sentience. Like it at least appears sentient. It's really interesting to observe that.
Well, let's go in a little different direction, because I've heard, Arthur, that you've taken this self-growth course that has really helped you. Has it changed your life?
It definitely has.
What was the course?
So it's actually where I met Alyssa. It's programs offered by Landmark Worldwide,
Cool.
which
I've
is,
heard of that.
Yeah, they're professional and personal growth and development, global organization, and it's crazy because it plays into the gamification side of life and really getting the tool set to take me out of like my basic like reactions, like my default reactions that I developed as a human being, right? Because we're all geared for survival. And so as we're borning, we form these trauma responses that we then base our entire life decisions off of. And we're completely blind to it. We have no idea this subroutine's running in the background, hijacking all of our reactions. We're like, no, I chose to flip that person off. Well, actually, no, you didn't. Like you did, but it's just the way that they look at it. It's really just getting that tool set to distinguish what's working for you, what's not working for you, and having that, you can still choose to react in the exact same default way you've always reacted, if that's what you actually want in that situation.
It's a conscious choice rather than like a built-in reaction.
Exactly. And it's having the capacity to do that, those conscious choices and the recognition that's there. So I started training and developing with them back in January 2020, right before the pandemic. So perfect timing to get some peace of mind. And I'm still in training and development with them, taking different programs that they offer, because they offer like 60 different programs.
I wanted to mention the program that Arthur and I met in. He was a coach, by the way, and I was a participant, but it was the self-expression and leadership program, which is the program I created Nurtured Nerds through. So yeah, that was why I was really glad that we connected, because Landmark and that program like have really, I found a lot of empowerment for myself through engaging with the programs that they have to offer. But basically it's like you said, like I went from feeling like I was being controlled by these patterns or these habits to being able to see them from sort of like a third person perspective of like, they're still there. I can still choose to use them if I want to, but I can also like, there's space. that I can choose to create other things in instead. And I was wondering, I really like this question from Gita. Like, what do you think about this idea of comparing these kind of, so landmarks programs are rather than being sort of like the normal type of learning that we're used to thinking about, they're ontological. So it's about changing your way of being. So it shows you like how to live in a different way. So that like brings to mind, what do you think about comparing that to like a tutorial in a video game?
Definitely is that, because it gives you access to a bunch of different skills that you wouldn't get just by hitting start and going off on your own. But something that was coming to me as you were sharing and creating there is anyone familiar with the like story wheel that comes up in, say, a Mass Effect game or Dragon Age Origins or anything like that? So it brings up a circle on screen, and now I'm doing a circle with my hands. So unless you're watching the video, this is not going to make sense. But they put a patent out on this system, and it was just because it was so immersive to create interaction in this way that they put a patent on it, and they're the only ones that are allowed to use it until it expires. But the reason I mention it is because, like, if you go through that game at the base level and you never get these special skills or upgrade your character stats in a certain way, you get a very limited reaction choice.
So your wheel has less things on it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So like your default conversation with someone, it might just have two options, like agree with them or disagree with them. But then as you increase your skill set, then you get other options. Sometimes it's to get more inquisitive. Sometimes, well, in the video game, there's an option to get more aggressive or to seduce them or to bribe them. But it's just that mentality for me, as you were sharing, Alyssa, it's like doing the course, it gives you that option. Yeah, those are still on the wheel. You can still toggle over and select those. But it gives you more
skills, more tools in your toolbox for
and shows
connecting.
you like how you can create new things to add to your wheel.
Exactly.
Or take things out of your wheel if you're like, I want room for something else that's going to serve me better. Because really, there is a limit to how much we can hold in our being, in the sense of like what is immediate in our awareness of like, this is how I'm going to respond. There's obviously not an infinite capacity for that. There's an infinite capacity to change stuff out, but it's almost like a video game too, in that sense of there's like an inventory. There's only a certain number of slots, and it's like, well, I want to have the things in my slots that are going to serve me the best.
Yeah, and that really, for me, it comes, at least what I'm coming up for me there, is that comes from where our focus is, right? If we're aligned of a certain way of living life, well, if you're aligned with having a life where everyone knows that you love them and that you cherish them and that they're appreciated, then having options to like murder is really not conducive, or having options to intimidate or to be extremely vulgar or aggressive. Like, there may be situations in your life where, those make sense, but in your day-to-day interactions, it wouldn't make sense to include that in your way of being.
Yeah, but those can get encoded. I mean, I know for me, like I have a lot of trauma in my past where those reactions became hardwired. They're almost like locked into my wheel. And so programs like the ones that Landmark offers and I found other communities like that have helped me, transform who I am and how I show up, that it takes them from being locked in place and makes them, movable. Yeah. So they still exist. They're still part of my past, my story, all of that. And I acknowledge they're there and I'm not denying them. But I don't have to carry them around in my inventory all the time if I don't want to anymore.
That's so good.
It really is.
Yeah. I've worked with a couple of people that had those kind of reactions encoded, like if they're right on the edge and they get used to responding with anger or, lashing out. And you can work on that to change that reaction by changing your environment or changing the way you think about it. And it sounds like Landmark helps you figure that's a way to do that. Is that true?
the power of consciousness for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a quick share around that if we have time for it.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so yesterday, so in my job, I sell tooling, right? And so one of the options they do is called consignment tooling, which means the company I work for owns the tooling until the customer uses it, right? And then they pay to replenish it, but they keep a block of tool, like a bunch of tools there. And so yesterday I had to go through this interaction where I've got to show up with an inventory list. And because they haven't been purchasing tooling for like 8 months, I've got to take back the consignment tooling. And so I show up and I've got the list printed off and I meet the guy and I talk to him and we start going through it, to the tooling cabinet together, and we check it all off. And I'm like, oh, this package is open. I can't take it back. You're automatically going to be billed for the whole thing. Da 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 da. And I work through all of it and I put the tools in the box and I take them out and I say bye to the guy I was working with that owns the company, and I put it in my car and I drive away. Now, what you may not know is who I was before I started this work. I probably wouldn't have shown up to do this. I would have thought of it as a giant confrontation that I would die trying to undertake. And so I either would have tried to talk them into shipping it to the branch, or talking a coworker into going to deal with it for me, or anything else. And my heart the whole time I was there would have been like like just going out my throat. I wouldn't have been able to talk and joke with the guy as I did, and he definitely wouldn't have invited me back again to do further business with him, which he did at the end. And my day would have been a write-off. I would have been in my car. I would have found an excuse to like slag off work, like tell the boss I'm done, whatever, go home, play video games, watch anime, hide under the covers. It would have been it. And
retreat.
That would have been it. So for me, I just got to be present to like, holy shit, like actually all of this stuff, I get to experience myself as a completely new human being now. Because who I ended up being was I was going to avoid confrontation for the rest of my life, or anything I perceived, right, as a confrontation, or anything at all like that. And so just to be in that moment yesterday, I was like, wow, like I'm enjoying this conversation. It's lighthearted. We're joking. My heart's not racing. And just, I had a great day. And I was like, oh my God, like,
what a tangible result. I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So how you were occurring for yourself, how you were occurring for them, how the situation was occurring for you, like all of that shifted and transformed.
Completely shifted. Like even like 16 months ago, 18 months ago, I would have been it would have gone, as I said, like I would have avoided it and all of that, because I just wouldn't have thought myself possible to actually be in that situation.
Congratulations on that work. Yeah.
Thank you. And it's just, it's like when you go to the gym and you train and to get stronger, to be able to carry the people out of the house and the fire, like I mentioned earlier in the episode, and all of that. It's like, until you pick them up and carry them, you don't know.
Right. Yeah.
And so I'm like,
Cool.
Here's a situation I never would have been able to move before in my life. And I was like, poof, like,
it's not even a problem anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. If you're not watching the video, you can't see my smile, but oh my God.
It's radiant.
Feels good. It feels
yeah,
good.
It feels really good. Yeah, I can see it. It's great. Thanks for that share.
Thank you for,
Yeah. Well, I think we should talk maybe about some cuddly stuff. What do you think, Alyssa?
Yeah, that sounds good. We're getting towards the last, 20 minutes.
Getting toward the end here. So let's talk about some cuddly stuff, Arthur. When and how did you first hear about professional cuddling and cuddle workshops? Do you have any initial impressions you can share?
I first heard about cuddling, I think it was cuddle.com on like a Facebook ad or something. That's the first time. And I was like, or cuddleup.com, something like that. I'd
Cuddle
have to
up,
look through.
cuddle up to me.
No, it was
No,
Cuddle or Cuddle
okay.
Up.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And there was an ad and I was like, wait, what? Like people professionally cuddle? And I was like, I love cuddling. Like,
Nice.
and so I signed up and I never actually got any requests. I made my profile because they had a profile to be a cuddler or a cuddly.
Mhm.
And I made a profile to be a cuddler. And then I never got any requests. So I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess just nobody wants to cuddle. Like,
Oh.
um, but that was the first time I ever heard of it.
Mm, okay. So cool. Positive reception, it sounds like. That's nice
Yeah.
to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you feel about it now? Are you still out there offering to be a cuddler?
I am not, no. The initial lack of reception kind of pushed
Mm,
me away. I think like when I heard about Alyssa's project when she was starting with it, just how important it is for the world to know that platonic touch is essential and that cuddling's not just for romance. It's not just for your significant other or the person you're dating.
mhm.
That cuddling can be between any two consenting people that just want human touch. Um, that it just really resonated with me, and it's why I connected with her and stayed in contact. And it was actually reaching out to see how that was going for her that started the opportunity to be here because
Awesome.
it's just such a needed space in the world.
Mm,
I'm really glad that I got to hear you share about that because I had no idea that you had experience with the world of professional cuddling before like hearing about my shares in the program that we did together and me reaching out about Nurtured Nerds. So yeah, that's really good to know that that's something that was already in your heart, something that you already thought was important. And so yeah, I'm really glad that you are here being a part of Nurtured Nerds and contributing to that desire, that intention, to have this be something that doesn't have to be taboo, that doesn't have to be associated with like that doesn't have to be justified basically, that it's okay that we need touch and it's not something we have to deny or find ways to numb because we're not getting enough. Like that it's okay to seek it out and that it's okay to not have a romantic partner to do it with and that there are still ways to get your needs met. And that's really hard to navigate for so many people because it's not something that's already ingrained in our society, just touch in general, let alone professional cuddling. So yeah, do all of our community members know that we're here to help you on that journey because it can feel like a daunting one. um what next, what else?
Why do you think there is such a stigma out there against cuddling or platonic touch or, as my sister said, that sounds inappropriate.
Yeah, my stepdad had a much stronger response when I told him that this is the work I wanted to do. So.
Yeah.
It like when I first started talking to friends, they're like, yeah, I'm gonna sign up to be a personal cuddler. And I did it anyway, right? But the reception was just so weird. And a lot of like even platonic touch between me and other human beings really wasn't even like something I saw as possible. And I don't know exactly when growing up it was made taboo as a child to cuddle, but I don't remember cuddling up with anyone like I by the time I was about prepubescent to pubescent, like after that, I don't remember any kind of cuddling. Like there was something in that journey. Someone said something where I was like, okay, like I can't touch other people.
Yeah.
and I found myself in so many like terrible relationships because I wanted to way to justify my need for human touch,
Mhm.
and just so many internal battles around like like beating myself up because um I really wanted to feel human touch, and it just felt so taboo to want to touch another human being, and it was just so strange.
Yeah.
I think this could be a whole, well, this could be a topic to talk about for years actually, but the damage that our culture has done to men who just need connection, and the only way you're allowed to get it is in games or sex. Because I just think in our North American culture, we have been so uh, we've trained people just to be like, oh, men can't do it outside of that, they're dangerous. You can't. I don't know. Is that your experience as a man?
Outside of romantic partners, like at some point
Mm-hmm.
I had it that I can only touch my romantic partner,
Mm-hmm.
and that is it. And if I have a romantic partner, oh my god, like I can't even touch another woman, like I can't get within a foot
Mm-hmm.
of the other woman because then I would be cheating on her,
Yeah.
and that's
Mm.
bad. um and that was a lot of my experience. So I always would have, for most of my life, a romantic partner because I love cuddling up on the couch and just chilling. There's nothing
Mm.
sexual about it.
Yeah.
It's not for anything else. It's literally because I love having another human being beside me.
Mm-hmm. And there are male professional cuddlers, and we're getting more all the time. And I do think it's important to have men in that role, honestly. Yeah. Yeah.
So
I'd love to do that as a panelist podcast, actually.
yeah, yeah. If you're open to coming back at some
Yeah, and
point,
I'd
that would be
I'd love to have you.
wonderful.
Yeah, I'd love to have you back for that. Yeah, totally.
That would be great. Yeah, if you do a panel on that would be awesome.
Okay, cool.
So I know you didn't get any requests when you put yourself out there to cuddle, um, but maybe just from, like you said, you've always almost always had a romantic partner. Have you like experimented? Like, what has your experience been with trying different ways of cuddling? And do you have any favorites, any go-tos? And what is your ideal cuddle like?
um well, it so actually since we met when I was coaching participants in the self-expression program, I started pushing myself like, Arthur, like you got to really like get through this whole platonic touch thing. And so it's really been it depends how. Sorry, you're asking position, right? Or
Yeah, pose, or just a scenario, a circumstance. Like, have you
Well, like,
ever curated your own cuddle, or has it been just something that flows naturally, or what has that been like for you?
well, I love cuddling as Big Spoon, um
mm,
and Little Spoon, which is interesting because I'm like 6'2" and 250 pounds. So I do not look like a little spoon when I'm a little spoon. But it's been I've because my partner has 3 children who are 4, 7, and 8. So I spend a lot of time like cuddling with them and making sure that they always know touch is safe, and that it's okay to always say you don't want touch too, right? Like the healthy body boundaries.
excellent.
So important.
Um, and just making sure they know it's like it's okay to want human touch. Like if you want to cuddle, like let us know.
Hmm.
And if we're not, we will let you know. Like we're not going to violate our own body boundaries, but like if you want to cuddle, like human touch is important, and it's okay to want that.
Nice.
But yeah, it's a lot of Big Spoon, Little Spoon, or all crammed on the couch, like all like cozied against each other. Um,
Mm, that's a good one.
yeah.
So you're from Canada, but you visited the US, right?
Yes, I have.
And have you noticed any difference in attitudes in between the US and Canada, like of touch and relationships and social interactions?
Um, Not really, honestly. I mean, the media puts all this stuff up there about like Canadians are nicer and Americans are ruder. At least that's what the media up here does. Maybe it's inversed down there. I'm not sure.
No, I think
Um,
that's the way it is here, that Canadians are just always nice and yeah, that's what I've seen.
um, so I really haven't really noticed anything like that. I think the strangest thing I ever noticed being down in the US, it's when I was down in Arizona and everyone was texting or watching YouTube videos while driving. I was just like
Oh,
blown away. Like
scary.
everyone, it would either had a phone mounted above their steering wheel or they were holding one. And I was like, is there no law here against distracted driving? Because everybody's driving with a phone.
Mm.
And this was like 2, 3 years ago. I was just like, I was like, is this the Twilight Zone? Like,
Well, I know a lot of people mount their phones because they're looking at maps. So, yeah.
what? I literally saw them like going to the next YouTube video, and I
Oh
was
my
like,
goodness.
I'm like, it's just like that's the
Wow.
biggest difference. That and when I was
Mm.
in Hawaii, like everyone is the most chill human beings I've ever met in my life. We're on Hawaii. I went to Kona, and every single person was full of smiles and laughter. And I mean, if you've been, you there's no reason not to be, but it just they were the nicest people in the world. Seriously.
Very cool. Well, nice. That's good to get a different perspective because I had a Canadian coworker and I just felt like our social interaction was pretty much the same as I would with any other, North American, I guess, where we all are North
Yeah.
Americans.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
have a few Canadian gamer friends, and I would say that that's my experience as well. It seems very similar. So
Mm.
there's just some differences in like brand names and like companies of for products like like common products, but there's a lot of similarities socially. I don't know about politics. I'm not even that much into politics to begin with anyway. So,
Mm.
but yeah, like I definitely want to visit Canada, but I've only
Yeah.
visited Niagara Falls. Um,
Yeah, it's a pretty beautiful place to check out.
but it's very touristy,
Yeah.
and I just like
Yeah.
I know that Canada has a lot of beauty in it.
Mm.
Like aside from the social stuff and other comparisons, America does as well. Really, I want to explore North America, well, and the
Mhm.
world.
Yeah,
Anyway, totally
me
off
too.
topic. Let's bring it back.
Let's bring it back.
So we had this Matrix theme earlier, this simulation theme, and we did talk about it a bit. But I wanted to know more about what you think, like whether or not you think that's possible that we're living in a simulation, whether it matters, how would we know, and how would you feel about that if that was the case?
I'm gonna answer the does it matter? No.
I
I really
agree.
does. I yeah,
Hmm.
I know I have this now moment. So whether I'm a simulation in a simulation in a simulation, or this is an authentic, actual, organic experience within the universe. I mean, what if we are an authentic, organic experience here on Earth, but we're just the VR suits for energy from the stars, right? Like it, I don't think it really matters. I mean, it could be totally possible that we are just like the universe embodied into individual perspectives because it's the
Hmm.
only way it can like raise frequency or evolve over time is by having individual perceptions and then collecting them back, individual perceptions and then collecting them back, because as one hive mind you can't have a difference in thought, right? Like we could
That's
go on.
necessary for evolution. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it
Wow.
really like you can compare evolution like in the scientific way to what you're talking about, where it's like if you only have one limited gene pool, there's not going to be as much adaptability to changing environments. And that's really similar with trying to raise the collective consciousness of humanity. It's like we need to have different experiences, but we also need to connect about them and see each
Yeah.
other's perspectives and be aware of them in order to evolve together.
That sounds like the beginning of a really good a conversation that should last all night long.
True, true, true.
Yeah.
So at the end here, is there any other like nerd tendencies in you that you want to share with us?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll try to make it concise. So I realized something about myself later in life, but I can trace it all the way back to when I started working. I have zero regard for people's egos getting hurt when I suggest something that's superior to what they're already doing. So my very first job, outside from like little like cash jobs here and there, like my first actual role where I collected an hourly wage.
Hourly rage. Picturing an alarm going off, and you're like, it's time for my hourly rage.
Freudian slip.
So this first job, I was indoor driving range, so a giant dome, right? And I had to drive the golf cart picker. And I don't know if you've ever seen them. They drag this big thing and it's got a bunch of, or push a big thing and it's got a bunch of bins in it to collect the golf balls. And when I started, the boss was like, okay, you're going out every hour on the hour or every 30 minutes, whatever the frequency was. And he's like, it doesn't matter. And so I do the job for like 2 weeks and I'm hating it. I'm like, this makes no sense. I go out, sometimes there's tons of balls and it takes forever because there's too many. I go out, sometimes there's not enough balls. So I'm just wasting my time driving when I've got other duties to do. So I started getting a certain ball volume level that I wanted to see on the field. And then I figured it out and I was so excited. I went to my boss and I was like, oh my God, like you told me to do this, but when I changed it to this, like I have so much more time in my day to make sure that the stalls are clean and all this other stuff, because there was a driving range, right? And there's all this other stuff I had to do. And he basically said he was going to fire me and went to the management meeting complaining about me. So one of the other managers said, look, he's really mad. We're going to say his name was Josh. Like, Josh is really mad at you for changing and making him look bad because you found a better way to do it. She's like, but I run the arcade. Come work in the arcade because right now most of my machines are out of order. So if you could have like, you wrap your head around that and make it so my machines aren't always out of order, we'll make more money and I'll be totally happy you did that for me. And so that's been a long career of everything I've done, whether it's in that or in manufacturing. I just love looking through problems and just finding ways for the stuff to flow. And there's no like specific, everyone's like, well, how do you do it? And it's like, no, I just look at it and I watch how things are moving and I start to tweak little things here and there. And then suddenly the flow is improved, whether it's workflow or whatever. And so that's like one geeky part of me that's really dictated where I go through life and my careers, because it's ruffled a lot of feathers and a lot of management. And I never got it. I was like, okay, but you guys are losers, so I'm going to go somewhere else.
It's a very like endearing way of thinking and being. So
I love doing that. Yeah, I love doing that too. And like, when I find things, it's like, why are you doing it that way? If you did this way, it makes so much more sense.
Exactly. And then people are like, what do you mean? I've always done it this way. It's like, well, but why? Like,
why?
I get that. Okay, but why do you want to keep doing it that way? I just proved to you it was inefficient. Like, why do you want to keep going now that you know?
Right.
Familiarity trumping efficiency.
Yeah, totally. Like their egos. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, kind of just to sort of finish up as we wrap up a little bit, but I would like to hear what advice you might give to someone who is seeking that connection. They want to experience more touch, or they really feel like there's something missing. What would you tell them?
That it's safe space to do so. And it doesn't matter how many people around you don't understand you wanting that touch. It's okay. Find your community here with Mary and Alyssa, whoever. Reach out. You deserve to have touch too. You're not weird.
Wow.
Or if you're weird, you're not alone in being weird.
Yeah.
We'll be weird with
Yeah,
you.
exactly.
Man, I think that is going to be our new advertising clip right there, Arthur. Because that just made me tear up when you said that.
Me too.
You
Gosh, I
might
almost
feel
didn't even
alone,
ask that
but you
question.
don't have to be.
You don't have to be alone. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
exactly. It,
All right. Is there anything else you want to say before we close the interview?
yeah, and just what I just said, really to the men too, like I'm talking to you too.
Mhm.
Like this isn't just for the women. This is for every type of folk that might be watching right now. That's, yeah, it's just so important to have human touch, and you don't need to date someone if you don't want to deal with dating. You don't need to date someone to be touched.
Yeah.
I feel like you're saying that to your past self too. She was really powerful.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for your vulnerability, Arthur.
Thanks.
Mhm.
I really appreciate it.
Yes. Thank you so much. Wow. It has been great to have you with us today, Arthur. I really hope we can connect again in the future.
Yes, thank you so much. If that panel opens up where you want to talk about the whole that other stuff, like let me
Yeah.
know.
Awesome. Well, you can stay with us. We're gonna chat a little bit more to close out the show, and you can stay if you want. We'd love you to.
Okay,
So
I'll put myself on mute so I don't talk over the closing, but I'll totally
Okay.
I'll still hear you. I might
okay,
just
sure.
Well, you're welcome to chime in still, so don't worry
Mhm.
okay.
about that.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. You can talk.
So, is there any nerdy things or interesting things that, or funny things that happened with you, Mary, since our last episode that you want to share about?
Yeah, I almost hate to break the mood here, but I did have a stupid nerdy thing I was going to share with you guys.
I would love to hear it.
Related to tea, actually.
All right.
Because I've been trying to brew my own kombucha for a couple years. So I've had a kombucha gallon in the kitchen. And I was like, I should share kombucha. That's tea. And what it is, it's black tea with sugar, and then you just let it ferment, and you get a SCOBY from somebody else. And I forget what SCOBY stands for, but it's something bacteria and yeast is what it stands for.
A microorganism blend, kind of.
It ends up being like a kind of a beige pancake that sits on top of your tea.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and it grows because it's fermenting.
Mm-hmm.
Symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast is what it stands for, and it's pretty ugly. But but
Definitely.
the tea ferments and it grows this SCOBY on the top. It gets bigger, 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 bigger. You have this big pancake, and of course, when I leave it sitting there for months, it's like 2 inches thick. You're not supposed to let it
Yummy.
sit that long. Yeah, you're not going to eat the SCOBY. You drink the fermented tea, and that's kombucha, and you're only supposed to ferment it for like 1 to 4 weeks or something, depending on the level of fermentation you like. But mine right now is covered in mold.
No,
And I was gonna
sad.
I was gonna show you guys, but it's so ugly. I'm like, this is disgusting. I can't even share that.
It's what's not on the internet. It's not NSFW. It's NSFL. Not safe for life.
Not safe for life. Yeah. So my kombucha has failed. So my nerdy kombucha tea thing that I've been trying to do that I haven't even been drinking, that I've been doing, just letting go too long, and now I have to throw it all out because it's moldy. So there's my
So
sad
your
nerdy thing.
kombucha adventures.
Yeah. My sad nerdy thing for today.
Are you
So
gonna
there
keep
we go.
trying?
I don't know. I have to get a new SCOBY from my friend because I don't have a SCOBY hotel. But my friend who did it, who I got my original SCOBY from a couple years ago, I'm sure she still has them. So I might. I don't know. I know I wasn't really drinking it much because I usually let it ferment too long and then it tastes like vinegar. It's too strong.
Oh, okay.
But I know like fermented food are really good for your gut. So I was trying. I ferment some cabbage sometimes too, and that turns out pretty good. But
Oh,
anyway.
okay. So it's like kimchi.
Yeah, like kimchi.
Cool. Microbiology nerdy.
Yeah, I know. So that was the nerdy thing I thought of to share today.
Cool. All right, my nerdy thing I brought to share is this tank top I'm wearing that I got from my friend as a gift. It's a top. It's Doctor Who. All of space and time.
All of time and space.
Where do you want to start?
Oh, nice.
So the TARDIS is the vehicle, the time traveling vehicle that the Time Lords use to have adventures through all space and time. And
Yeah,
I love that show
I do too.
because it's the way that the universe is created. It's just really creative, and so many crazy things can happen. Like there's a lot less limitations than with other types of fictional universes that I've engaged with, because it's aliens, so they can literally make any kind of beings that they want, or any kind of planet that they want.
Yeah.
And just create all types of wacky scenarios. So.
But I love Doctor Who. I love the Doctor because he's totally about connection. That's what he's looking for. You know, he has all of space and time, and what he wants is to have a person to be with him to enjoy that with. Yeah. And even when they go visit other places, he always ends up connecting with those people, like the one where, I don't know, they were on a little transport to go see the volcano or something. It was like a 4-hour thing, and the stewardess comes on and she's like, here's the video, here's the whatever, and she turns on all these electronic things to distract you, and he basically like
turns them off, and he's like,
turns
let's
them all
talk
off.
to each other.
Yeah, exactly. And they end up all talking and singing, and you know, for this big trip. Yeah, I mean, and that's what he does everywhere he goes. I love it. Yeah.
And there's just a lot of like there's just a lot of like thought experiments that happen in episodes that I really like.
Yeah, totally.
I was going to say, it's just such a beautiful way to create a story, is to have him looking for. I've only watched like I think 1 or 2 seasons, but it's just such beautiful stories and like heartfelt moments that you don't normally get to see in like a mainstream entertainment situation, where he's literally just, like you said, chasing connection. It's like I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's completely what the show is about. Yeah.
And you can really, I was gonna say, you can really jump in anywhere, because I've watched like random episodes, and it's not really weird. Just sometimes the Doctor's different, but
yeah, and sometimes they bring back enemies from previous episodes. So.
But even then, he's connecting with them. Like I recently went back and watched some of the really old ones with the and some of the old enemies anyway, to see like their origin stories, and
like the Daleks and the Cybermen.
No, it was like the Master and
okay.
Oh, what's the creator of the Daleks?
Anyway. Yeah.
Davros. Yeah, Davros and the Master, just kind of seeing their history and how he really kind of has a tender spot. Like he still doesn't want to give up on them, even though they're like deadly enemies, you know?
Yeah, and he like won't even he hates guns, like he hates weapons, because he always tries to be nonviolent whenever possible. Like there's so many enemies where he literally gives them a choice. He's like, we don't have to fight, but you need to stop hurting these people.
Right.
And then they choose not to, and he's like, fine, I'm gonna punish you then. Yeah. But like it's always the last resort.
Right, it's the last
resort. So I really like that part too, about the Doctor.
Yeah. Oh, and I'm very proud of this. I once won Doctor Who trivia at a pub quiz night, and my whole team didn't know anything about it, so it was me. I won it.
Good job carrying the team. So let's move on to the cuddle of the episode.
Yeah, what's the cuddle?
So I wanted to kind of continue with this theme. Last time it was, eye gazing and hand holding, an homage to Grace's Eyes and Hands event. And she's having another one this weekend. So I wanted to do another group one. And so Massage Train is the one I picked for this episode. It's really fun. It's one that you can receive pleasure, give pleasure in a platonic way, in a group. And it can be, you don't have to look in each other's eyes. You're both facing the same way, and someone's behind you and you're behind someone else. So there's not a lot of face-to-face, and it's not super close contact or a ton of contact, but it's a nice way to love on other people and get loved on by other people.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have
And
enough, you can make a circle, so everyone's getting a massage and not, there's no one on the end missing out.
yeah. And we used to do that in choir I think we were talking before we even started, and you said massage training, and then you said something about choir. I'm like, oh yeah, in my old choir, they used to do that, like go massage people as we're doing our warm up, and we just standing. So just massage their shoulders, and we do massage train in our choir. Did you ever do that?
I didn't. I wish. That sounds
No?
really nice. No.
I wondered if that was a choir thing all
Maybe
over.
it wasn't. Maybe like by the time I was in choir, there was all this like PC stuff. It was like, oh,
Oh,
we're not allowed to do that in case
not allowed
somebody
to
gets
touch
touched
people.
the way they're not supposed to.
That's
And when you're
probably the
working with,
case.
underage kids, that's a
Yeah,
lot more of a concern than.
that's true.
But even in college, we never did that. It never occurred to me. But that's a great
Yeah.
idea. I think maybe because you were more into theater, that
Mhm.
tends to be a little more embodied than choir for whatever reason.
Maybe.
So I don't know.
Yeah, I did choirs in college, and so that was the experience. So that was in the
Okay.
early 90s. So
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, I don't think we did. I wasn't really in theater classes, I guess, then.
Oh, okay. Then
Yeah.
I incorrectly assumed. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if we even did that in theater classes. Not that I recall. That would have made more sense.
Yeah, like I just imagined it being like a
Mm,
theater exercise for some reason.
mm,
From my
yeah,
few theater experiences I've had, and
yeah.
just observing theater students in college and high school,
Hmm.
doing lots of exercises and stuff.
Yeah,
Anyways,
cool.
yeah. So let's get to the promos.
Promos, yeah.
As always, they're the same as always, but I love to remind you, if you like this interview, if you enjoyed Arthur's vulnerability and just the deep dives we did, I know I did.
I did.
Please please subscribe, comment, please tell us how you feel about it, what you think. We want to communicate with you. We want to know what you want, so that we can create it together.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, just if you like it, if you tell other people about it, more people will see it, more people will join Nurtured Nerds, and we'll have more people to connect with and have more fun together. So just got to throw that in there. Our website, nurturednerds.com. We have a subreddit, r/nurturednerds. The two N's are capitalized. That's important on Reddit. And Facebook, we have a project page, Nurtured Nerds, and we have a private group, Nurtured Nerds Community. So just let us know if you'd like to join our community. You can direct message me on Facebook, but also on our website, there is a membership application to fill out. It can seem daunting, but really we just want to get to know you so that we know how we can best serve you as a member of our community. So that's all that's about. Please join us if you're at all interested in getting more connection in your life and just learning how to do that, connecting with like-minded people.
And celebrating nerds.
Yeah,
right?
Definitely. Our raid that's still going on, because it's been a slow start, but we're getting there, is Jerk Proof Your Relationships, a wonderful course by Cassandra Brown. So if you go to her website, cassandrabrown.org/jerk-proof your relationships with hyphens in between the words. It's a wonderful course. The price did go up, but she wants you to invest in yourself. She will work with you with whatever financial situation you're in. If you really want to do this work for yourself, just please reach out and we'll work with you, or she will work with you. I still have not created my individual website, the irlsupportmain.com. It exists, but there's no content on it yet. Hopefully that will be coming soon. Same with Discord and Twitch. We would love to start having streams, start connecting more on there if there's interest in that. And Mary, would you like to talk about the raffle?
Sure. Our last raffle went to Oberon. He won all of our cool swag we had up for our member raffle. And if all new members joining between a couple weeks ago and when's the end date? Let's see, July 29th
29th. Yeah.
are eligible for this. So all you have to do is fill in a membership application. And you can win a free 30-minute virtual session with a professional cuddler. And after you do an initial intake screening with them, we have a free ebook on cuddling and connection, which was written by me, called The Art of Authenticity. We've got a free PlayStation gift card for you. You can submit a question for us to use on the podcast after we approve it. And also get a discount on our current raid for Jerk Proof Your Relationship. And we also have Sam Varneren's book, Happy While Hermiting. So yeah, we've got a pretty good package here for some lucky new member that will be drawn on July 29th. So come join us and maybe you'll win.
It's a high probability. Really, our community is still very small, so get in here, man. Man, woman, non-binary.
Anyone.
Yeah, we want. If you want to cuddle and you are willing to respect your own and others' boundaries, we want you in here. So
yeah. We just like being nerds together and getting good connection between us. That's what this is all about.
Yes. Are we feeling
Cool.
nurtured?
I am feeling nurtured. We still have Arthur. Are you feeling nurtured?
I am feeling nurtured.
That's awesome.
Oh, I forgot to mention, every week we have an hour-long hangout where we just talk and play some online games. Usually it's like Jackbox or Scribble. There was a Scattergories. It was like similar to Scattergories. We found a new one that Grace shared with us. So yeah, every either Saturday or Sunday. This week it's on Sunday because we're recording today. So yeah, just check our Facebook, check our Reddit to get info on that.
Called Nerd Break.
Nerd break. Yeah.
We all need nerd break. Definitely.
We all need a break for our nerdiness. All right.
Yes.
So we're feeling nurtured.
Self-hugs.
Yeah.
Self-hugs.
Hug yourself. Give yourself all the love that you give to someone else when you hug them because you deserve it too.
Yes, please.
You're the best cuddle partner you will ever have because you are always with you.
That's right. Well, thanks, you guys. As always, wonderful time.
Yes, thank you so much.
See you guys next time. Woohoo!
Thank you.
Yay.
Yeah.